So an enormously warm welcome to everybody. We are putting on this recruitment event just in order for people to hear more about what it is that we do and how it works and what it looks like, and to give real kind of insight into the HMI role and the inspection process. The colleagues that have just introduced themselves will talk a little bit more about their roles and what it's like for them. And what we're hoping to do is really bring the role of the HMI alive for people so that people understand exactly what we do, and hopefully build up an appetite in terms of thinking about coming to join us. We've got a short presentation that we will run through today, and then we've got the opportunity for people to ask questions, and we really do welcome questions, and we're all poised and ready to answer those. So we'll make sure that we come to those at the end of the presentation. Simi, if I hand over to you, and Holly, if we could have the next slide, please.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrea, and welcome everybody. So let's just tell you a little bit about our vision and our purpose. Our vision is for high quality probation and youth justice services that change people's lives for the better. We achieve that through the inspection, research, assurance and effective practice work that we produce and provide evidence-based judgments. Our purpose and who are we? We are an independent inspectorate in England and Wales. We set standards that shine a light on the quality and impact of the services that we inspect. Our voice drives system change, where we focus on equity, diversity and inclusion. It's embedded through our work, including a commitment to the Welsh Language Scheme, engaging with people with lived experience as a couple of examples. Holly, next slide, please. So hopefully some of you are familiar with the work that we've done. We do have a website where we produce and publish all our reports and work as well. Our inspection programme includes the Youth Inspection Programme, which has been recently reviewed and now inspecting against a new framework, which has hopefully had a massive impact in terms of not only identifying areas for improvement, but really shining a light on those local practices and local arrangements working with children. We also have the core inspection programme for probation, which we've recently paused, and we've done that because we've recently found a consistent theme against public protection. So we're now carrying out what we call the dynamic inspection of public protection, allows us to focus in a bit more detail on that particular area of work. We also have our thematic inspection programme. Again, we feel that there's real impact and effectiveness from this area of work where we're really able to dive deeper into particular themes. And recently we've published reports on safeguarding adults, diverting children from the criminal justice system, unpaid work, and recruitment, retention and training in the probation service. We've also launched the new Approved Premises programme, which we're really proud of. It's an area of work that we've done thematic inspection on previously, but this is now becoming a more routine programme for the inspectorate. And we also quality assure serious further offences as well, for which our annual report was published last week, and we have a launch event taking place later today. And as mentioned earlier, through this programme of work that we've just covered, what we aim to do is shine a light on the quality and impact of services, including also areas for improvement, but also sharing effective practice where we've seen them against our standards. Our standards and guidance are evidence-based, and with that we drive improvements through scrutiny and feedback, sharing that both with people that we've inspected, but also ministers and other stakeholders as well. So I hope that provides you with a little bit of an overview about who we are, what we do, and I will now hand over to Mike for the next section.
Thanks, Simi, much appreciated. So just for a little bit of context in terms of the wider teams and the wider staff that sit within the inspectorate, and many of you on the call may have been subject to one of our inspections previously and in the past. And I think it's really important to reflect that our inspection isn't just that fieldwork week. What goes on in and around that is quite a large industry internally for us in terms of the planning and the staff, the wider staff that are involved in those inspections beyond the inspection team that will turn up on site. So in terms of some of our kind of corporate staff and some of our backroom staff, we work to a planner. Our head of operations produces that planner in conjunction with the heads of programme to inform where we're going to be, what our work plan looks ahead for the future, what our schedule is for inspections, etc. And within that, there's conversations around with other inspectorates around how we kind of coordinate that. So it's fair to say we work to a project plan, and our admin team develop that project plan, and the project plan actually starts weeks before we come on site and undertake the field work. So for example, our inspection admin staff will be liaising, planning the logistics right the way up to the announcement, and then the subsequent planning and logistical arrangements around scheduling prior to coming on site. Obviously, when you're on site, you will then have your inspection team led by the lead inspector and with assistant inspectors on that team. We also use local assessors, so there might be assessors and inspectors that we train up and we utilise and bring in from the sector to support some of that, some of them inspection teams as well. Beyond moving on through the field work phase, what is quite critical then is the role of our data team. So our data team will gather and assimilate and produce the data that our inspectors have found on site, and in effect distill that into a form where inspectors can then make some analysis of what the overall themes and scores are from those judgments on inspection. The inspector will then be producing the report afterwards, but then we also liaise extensively with our chief inspector. Has to have sight of that report, has to ratify that report, and we have a ratings panel and a ratification meeting system, which usually chief operating officer will be in. So what you've got then is that accountability. It becomes the inspectorate owns that report afterwards. So moving a little bit further through, we will then be liaising with our colleagues in comms. So comms obviously will hold the responsibility in terms of we have a formal contract edit. It's that external liaison with the inspected bodies and wider stakeholders, and then obviously moving towards a publication plan. So quite a bit of industry around what you think is just a fieldwork week, actually the role of the different teams that you're working with within the inspectorate. And I think it's summed up really well. Andrea kind of summed it up in a previous meeting really well. It's an organisation with a lot of multiple moving parts, and your role within that, it's also understanding what the role of others is within that as well. Sorry, next slide please, Holly. So as you will have guessed, I've drifted probably into slide 6 a little bit. So in terms of the role of the inspector, so your role as an inspector would be to lead and support at every stage of inspection. So obviously I've already referred to the planner, so you will have an allocated kind of number of inspections across the year. Some of them inspections you will lead, so you will be responsible for the leading, the planning, conducting the field work, leading the team on field work, and then ultimately drafting and writing that final report, giving that feedback to the inspected areas and inspected bodies. Another part of the inspector role, you will also be a deputy lead inspector, so you will be supporting your colleague who is the lead inspector, again on that field work. And whilst you don't have that responsibility for the report that sits with the lead inspector, you will still be expected to be a key part of that, of that planning, of that delivery, and of that analysis of the findings, and quite often in some of that feedback as well. So within some of the inspection activity that you'll do on site, what you will do is you will interview and hear from a range of stakeholders, senior leaders, practitioners, managers, children involved in youth justice, people on probation in terms of the adult world. You will lead focus groups and case discussions, so you will do some individual case inspection, but you will be facilitating groups. And the aim of that activity is obviously to gather the evidence through that activity against our standards, and then to write and inform your final report. As already mentioned, you will lead inspection teams, so that is not only leading in terms of that key role in organising and planning, but you've got that responsibility for your team as well, particularly when you're working away from home. You're responsible for the well-being of your team and the well-being of the individuals within that. You're responsible for the decisions that are made, yes, in conjunction with your deputy head of programme and your head of programme, if circumstances arise, but really that responsibility sits with you as the lead inspector. And as we've talked about, we use the wide range of data to form our judgments, to contribute to ratings and to make those recommendations. So you will have data from the cases that you've inspected and that your colleagues have inspected. You'll have qualitative data from the meetings and the activity that you've undertaken. You will also be reading a body of evidence in advance prior to coming on field work. So in effect, all that goes into the pot, and you will then be distilling that and coming up with your judgments against our standards to inform and contribute to your final report. What we also do, and Simi touched on this briefly, we identify effective practice. So as well as some of those areas for improvement and development, and we define effective practice as where we see our standards met well. So in that instance, if we're on site and we see evidence of that effective practice, certainly we would be wanting to highlight that. And as you'll be aware from our website and some of the products that we've produced in relation to effective practice, they can be really helpful to stakeholders and the sector. Obviously feeding back to inspected areas on the findings of inspection, and that within that you've got to have some resilience to be able to do that. With the best will in the world, sometimes them findings are where there's areas of improvement. Sometimes you will get some challenge back on that, but it's that ability to be able to give that feedback at that senior level, and really, as Simi touched on, drive and support that drive and improvement in quality of practice. And then outside of some of that inspection activity, contribute to work with strategic leaders in terms of some of that national policy, some of that system change. So whilst you might not be on field work one particular week, there might be a range of meetings, or there might be some specific leads that you may have in terms of being able to contribute to that wider systemic picture. And I think that's me. I will now hand over to Avtar.
Thank you very much, Mike. So I'm going to speak very briefly around some of the skills and experience that would be helpful to carry out the role of an inspector. And the first point that I wanted to kind of stress was that it is helpful if you have some experience at operating within a senior level in a related profession. So just to be clear, we're not saying that it has to be probation related, but it does have to be related to a profession which is linked to criminal and community justice. And as Mike has helpfully been speaking to us, one of the key requirements of the role is about assessing performance and assessing that performance against a set of standards. So where you are able to demonstrate that you have had that experience of reviewing performance, that is clearly a helpful set of skills and experience to have. And along with assessing performance, in the work that we do, we know the role that data can play to help us not only to understand the things that are going well, but also the things that are going less well, and provide us with some themed understanding. So where you have had some exposure, some opportunity to demonstrate your ability to analyze data, that is also helpful. And you'll be unsurprised that, once pre-field work and field work has been completed, there is bundles of information, dossiers of information, which we need to assimilate, we need to ingest, we need to analyze, interpret, and try to make sense of how these things come together. So that ability to be able to handle that multitude of information and make sense of it is an important requirement. And I'm sure that many people on the call will have bundles of, transferable and actual experience in that area. And when it comes to IT, again, unsurprisingly, we all are using IT, and I will cautiously mention, AI and how that is beginning to, introduce a new way of working. And, at the inspectorate, we're kind of responding to that, but going forward, I'm sure that will feature more. But we do need to have some confidence in being able to use, Excel spreadsheets, other aspects of IT. In terms of being able to present information, a skill that's needed is that when information is presented, it needs to be presented in such a way that it is understood well by the audience, and that requires both effective verbal communication and also written communication. And within the inspectorate, we have people to help us with that, but we do look for people who are able to present information in a concise way, are able to deliver it confidently as well. And as I said earlier, whilst the role isn't explicit to the probation service and youth justice service, there may be people on the call who are able to demonstrate that they are able to show that they do have experience that's relevant in both of those sectors, the criminal justice sector, the community justice sector. You will be aware that the probation inspectorate inspects against a set of standards, so they're not something that have been made up by individuals, and because of that, there needs to be that ability to be able to look at the standards, to review practice, and then to report on that. And from a practical perspective, there is a need to be able to travel, and later on colleagues will be talking about what it's like to be a probation inspector. So the ability to travel and work away from home is needed. And finally, being able to work effectively in a team with other people. And as Mike said, there are lots of moving parts, lots of cogs in the organisation, and it's important that we're able to have good relationships there. Being able to analyse and to reflect on performance, on data, on information. Now, obviously, all this will require some support and training, and I'm going to ask Donna to speak about that. Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Avtar. Yes, I'm going to try and paint a picture for you of what those first few weeks and months would look like when you join the organisation. It's not just here's your pen and pad and off you go. There's a huge set of standards to sort of become familiar with. There's 3 weeks separate training. They're dotted out throughout your first few weeks in the organisation. They'll cover things like the standards, the methodology, the purpose of the programme, how to gather evidence, and it's quite varied. We'll have different speakers from the organisation leading sessions. There's videos to watch, and there's also a chance to do some skills practice as well. We cover the basics around what each fieldwork week is for and what that activity looks like and what you will do with that information. And during your induction period, you also have sessions with almost everyone at the inspectorate to learn about all the different strands that will touch what you do to a greater or lesser extent. Obviously, we've got a youth side and an adult side, and we try and learn from each other and cross-pollinate in that way. You'll meet with everyone from the chief to the head of standards to the inspection support team to talk about how they will support you as you learn your craft. So when that's underway, you'll then have a period of observation where you'll observe an inspection. So you'll go out with a more experienced inspector on a fieldwork week, and initially you'll do some cases, which should hopefully feel quite familiar if you come from a background of quality and making judgments on cases against a set of standards. And there will be some QA around that case inspection, so you'll be supported and fed back in terms of whether the information you feed back is in line with our standards and not so much what you would do if you had the case, or we'll be looking for sufficiency over perfection. So the QA will comment on how in line with that you are, whether you're succinct enough, whether everything flows and makes sense. So there's lots of feedback and opportunity for development. And there's also observation of the second fieldwork week, which is the focus groups led by the lead inspector. So you'll be able to see those in action and absorb a bit of that learning informally. You'll also have the opportunity to lead some sessions to kind of start to practice those skills about gathering evidence and having an idea of what you want to ask when you go in, but also going with the flow and developing discrepancy and all that good stuff that comes with working for probation and youth services as well. So after that, you'll be scheduled to do some deputy lead inspector duties, which I think is one of the best roles within the inspectorate. You aren't responsible for the report, and you're not solely responsible for giving the feedback, but you very much contribute and support the lead inspector in that role. It's a really good way of learning how to how the role works, basically. So again, you'll be joining in with leading some of those sessions, and that will become more and more frequent as the week builds. You'll be taking notes. In between the sessions, crucially, it's analysis of information, hearing things that have said and linking it up with things that you've heard earlier on in the week, triangulating things, what feeds into the standards and all that kind of thing. So lots of really interesting discussions between meetings that the deputy is really crucial for developing the lead's understanding as well. I think it's a really kind organisation, and I think that there's lots of opportunity to ask questions. There's lots of expertise within the organisation. There's people you can go to that have got really interesting backgrounds. We've got a research team, we've got a LDQA team, a learning development quality team, and our head of that department is very innovative. He's really interested in technology. So if you have a question around how to make a judgment, how to pull things together, LDQA can help you with that, as well as your line manager. You'll also have lots of oversight when you write your first report. So it's really you'll be quite held, I think, certainly my experience. And in an ongoing sense, once you're kind of more established into your role, 4 times a year we have a inspection development week for skills. So we cover a topic during that week, and we have speakers, we have workshops. Some of the topics we've had in recent times have been safeguarding and leadership. We've got an AI one coming up, and it's a good chance to connect with colleagues, because it's a funny role in that you might not see some colleagues for months, and then you're together intensively for a couple of weeks. So reconnecting with colleagues, learning from each other, and working out what to do with that information when you get back to work. Also, it goes without saying, there's supervision with your line manager and mentoring that you'll receive when you start in post. There's also opportunities to undertake thematics, which I think Avtar mentioned in the previous slide. They're also really interesting because you'll be supporting the lead for that, and you're taking a deep dive into a particular topic, which might be come from ministers, or it might be something that we've spotted in our core programme that needs further understanding. Examples, I've done 3 thematics, supported on 3 thematics: counter-terrorism one, the quality of work with women on probation, and also a couple of years ago we did one into IPPs. So really you become a bit obsessed with the topic for a period of time, and you can start to see how how the work that you've contributed is impacting things going forward. So it's a really rewarding place to work and a kind place to work. And I think that might be all from me for the moment, and I'm going to move on to Sarah.
Thanks, Donna. I just want to give you a sort of flavour of what it's really like to be an inspector. So, I mean, in day-to-day, month-to-month, there is a pattern. There absolutely is a pattern to what you do when you're allocated an inspection. And I think the thing to be really clear about is we are away from home, and you can be. I work at it's about roughly 1 week in every 4 to 6 weeks, but that is variable. It's not that that's always the pattern. So it could be that you're away for 1 week out of a month, and then the following month you're away for 2 weeks, and then you're not away at all the month after. So it's about a rough average really, but there is a real pattern, and you know when you're going to be away in advance. It's not that, you know, this is sprung on you, 2 weeks before. So for example, I think best to talk from my personal experiences from about September, October of this year. I've known where I'm going to be for the next 6 months, and I've known which inspections I'm leading on, and I know which inspections I'm deputising on, and I know what the tasks are that sit within that. In terms of if I'm leading an inspection, I know I'll get a project plan about 6 weeks before the actual field work, and I will work through that project plan to then plot everything into my diary to make sure that there's set tasks that need to be done by a set time, the deadlines are always met, and that sort of is through pre-field work, actually when you're out on field work, and then the following sort of weeks when you're report writing and report editing. So you have a real clear focus and structure on what you're doing. It's not, there aren't any surprises. That doesn't mean there aren't changes. We do get changes sometimes in terms of the planner, because things happen, life happens to all of us. So I think there can be changes, but generally that happens with notification, and usually things are very structured. And for me, it's a really stark contrast to my experience in the sector. When I was working in the sector, yes, you had forward planning, yes, you knew what was coming in one sense, but you also had running alongside that operational demand, and that the things that you had to react to, and I think with the inspector you just don't get that same sort of reaction. So I think it's really sort of quite a structured and planned way of working, and your time is very organized, but you have to be quite organized with that as well. So when you are going through project plans and plotting things in your diary, you will pick up if there's any sort of key tasks or conflicts that you may have, because you won't just be running one inspection at a time. You'll have come off one inspection, have a live inspection, and also then be looking forward to the next one as well, because there will be some overlap. But it's absolutely doable as long as you have that sort of organized approach really to practice. I've literally this week just been going through a project plan for an inspection that I'll be leading next week, and I know sort of where all those things are, when all those tasks have got to be done. They're all in my electronic diary. It might be that I'm a bit retentive about things like that, but that's just the way I like to work. And I think the other thing that I would say about sort of being away from home, yes, you are away from home, but I find in this role I have more time with my family than I ever did in the sector when I was working operationally. And when I'm here, when I'm at home, when I'm not in an evidence and advance week or a fieldwork week or a report writing week, the reality is I'm more present. So there are plenty of times when I worked in the sector when I was at home, but I really wasn't present because my mind was totally distracted on operational issues or strategic matters. And so I might have been here in body, but my daughter and my husband, I'm sure, be very quick to say, yeah, she's definitely more present these days. So I think the key thing to take from inspection is it's very much task and finish, so and for me personally that makes me feel like I achieved something on a regular basis, because on a regular basis I produced a report which has helped a service in some way or highlighted areas of practice. And I think that's the thing I'd like to lead on to, is what is it that I really love about this job, and why have I come in? I think it's that opportunity. I mean, I work in the youth sector, but it's having that opportunity to really shape and improve children's experiences of youth justice. That was something I always tried to do when I was working frontline, but you're doing this at much more sort of broader level, on a national level really. I think being able to go into having the privilege, it's a real privilege as an inspector to go into services and see some really innovative and inspirational practice that is almost always delivered by people who really care about the children and families and the victims that they're working with, and they're often doing that in really challenging circumstances. So having the opportunity to shine a light on innovative and effective practice, which doesn't just, you know, help that service, it helps the whole sector. The whole sector can be aware of what it is that specific area are doing and doing really well. But I think the other side of our role is about walking with practitioners, walking with senior leaders, and highlighting where are those developmental needs, but doing that in a very constructive way. So it's a very constructive challenge. So it's holding that mirror up and enabling people to see what it is that needs to change. I'm delivering that. For me, key elements of that are out delivering that in a very kind, respectful and compassionate way and sensitive way. So people can hear the messages that you're saying. It's absolutely crucial that if you see areas that need development, people need to be able to hear that and be able to respond to it. I think something else that's really fascinating is that when you're on site, we do have instances where change starts to happen, and you know, literally as you're there while you're on site, you actually see things happening. I've had this just recently, you know, trying to work out what was going wrong in this particular area of service delivery, and we hit the nail on the head within that week, and the service was already starting to sort those issues out straight away. I think one of the other things I find really helpful is I have time these days. I never used to have time to read and reflect. I'd be quickly scanning through something to get key messages, but now as an inspector, I have time to actually read reports. I have time to think about them and reflect, and how is that going to impact on my inspection activity? How can I use that on you know, sort of as I go forward? I think all inspections are different, and so as a consequence, some run really smoothly, some are challenging, but that's so you get that variety and interest that comes with the work. I also get to, John has alluded to it, but I think I get to work with some really truly impressive, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on this call, my colleagues are impressive, they're talented, they're really knowledgeable. A little bit of an imposter syndrome when I first started meeting all these amazing people, but they are really inspirational people, and I learn something from everybody every week, you know, of my working life, and every time on inspection I learn something that will change how I am as an inspector. And I think the final thing I'll say before I hand over to Karen is I just know that I have a much better work-life balance in this role than I ever had before. I see my family more than I ever did. And although those inspection sort of weeks, so that evidence in advance, your field work and your report writing are intense, and they are intense, and you have to work at pace and you have to work hard, those non-inspection weeks, you really do get that time back, and it really does bring that balance. So I will hand over to Karen to talk about her. I can't remember what it was, Karen, sorry. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'll keep my input brief because a lot of what I was going to say has been covered, and I completely agree with what Sarah was saying in terms of the differences in the role from coming from the sector to the inspectorate. So I'm going to speak briefly about why I enjoy the role and link it to the slide. So the things I really enjoy about being an inspector are people. I love communicating. I love working alongside people, both within our organisation and within inspected organisations and alongside stakeholders as well. I love the opportunity when the evidence in advance comes in. I spend hours of my life meticulously reading through all the documents, and I see it as a jigsaw, a huge jigsaw. And as evidence in advance progresses and field work and all those opportunities to gain that richness of information from focus group and individual discussions, and looking at individual pieces of work with children or people on probation and victims, bringing those pieces of the jigsaw together with the ultimate view of being able to analyse that information to provide helpful, and constructive feedback to services. Ultimately, we're all in the roles we are across justice and wider because we want to make a difference to the lives of children, families, people on probation, communities and victims. And I feel in this role, more than any other role that I've done in my career, I'm able to influence change and have that positive impact. So in relation to the slides, it's already been discussed, the support from colleagues, and to enable us to do the roles that we do, that is vital. And Donna mentioned kind of kindness. We've heard about genuine care, and I would call it as well wraparound support. we do feel held, and never as a lead inspector deputy or when I'm meeting with stakeholders have I ever felt that I'm alone or out on a limb. There's always people available to support. Senior leaders are incredibly caring and responsive. They will always make time. So it's a great organisation to work within. Sarah alluded to the relationships and inspection ethos, and it's about working alongside services. And that's both within the inspectorate and with inspected organisations. We work collaboratively. We want to go on that kind of process and journey with them. We want to deliver sometimes constructive and difficult messages within a safe space with the aim of making that ultimate difference. And in terms of developmental and learning opportunities, as much as we hope organisations can learn from us, we're certainly learning as from organisations and from the sector, and we're constantly reflecting on how we can improve that. I'll just finally finish with working alongside stakeholders and influencing policy. As an inspector, we have opportunities to kind of have those really supportive and reflective conversations with organisations from announcement right through to the pre-field work meetings. We find that our reports can influence positive change, and the recommendations not only have impact on that inspected organisation but the wider sector. So for example, you'll see other services who've picked up on themes from another organisation's report and have put in those developmental actions. We receive action plans which outline what progress has already been made against our recommendations, and we see the influence of the work that we have undertaken. And finally, I really enjoy, as part of my role, working alongside stakeholders. So for me, I've got a role as kind of the lead youth inspector, linking in with Wales, so I get to work alongside colleagues in Yacht Managers Cymru, Youth Justice Managers Cymru, with YJB Cymru and with Welsh Government as well, and love those opportunities to kind of learn from them as much as I hope that they can learn from me too. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Simi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Holly. Just to quickly cover in terms of the secondment opportunities and the terms and conditions that apply. For people that are joining that are currently civil servants, so people that might come from the MOJ, from HMPPS, we will advertise for initially a 2-year secondment period with the opportunity to extend that to 3 years if required. If candidates are outside of the civil service, we have some fixed term opportunities that we may consider, or secondments up to 2 years. So for example, if you are part of the Youth Justice Service, that will be a 2-year secondment. Because people may vary in terms of where they are seconded from or whether they come as a fixed term position, your conditions and terms may vary slightly according to the contract that you are awarded as part of that as well. If you have questions, it's worth you contacting us if you want to discuss your individual arrangements and how that might impact, and we will cover that later as well. So I'm going to hand over to Andrea for the final part.
Thank you, Simi, and thank you to everybody that's spoken and really given a good flavour of what it's like to be here and the work that we do. So just in terms of next steps, we are anticipating that our recruitment round for this round will go live on the 6th of January, and then that will be open during January. So that's the period in which applications have to be got in. We have an assessment centre for these roles, so we're anticipating that those dates are the 24th and 25th of March. We can't move those dates, so people need to make sure that they are available in terms of attending the assessment centre. And then we also are anticipating the interview dates will be the week commencing the 30th of April. And as Simi just said, any questions, particularly ones in terms of fixed terms, secondments, terms and conditions, all of those sorts of things, please do contact our corporate team and they will be able to get back to you with the sort of individual information in relation to that. I'm conscious we've got a few minutes left, so we just want to open the floor in terms of any questions that people might have, anything that people would want to ask us specifically. We've got a whole range of people here that are happy and ready to answer questions. So yeah, anything that people might wanting to be asked us, please do. Any hands? No. Okay. I see. Well, I'm hoping that then we've covered things in terms of answering people's questions that they might have had. I'm hoping that people have found the session useful. I suppose what I would say, just in terms of, oh, we've got a hand, Yasmin. Perfect. We definitely will send the video, won't we, Holly? You'll be in charge of putting the video out.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yasmin, did you want to ask us a question?
Yes, I did. Hi, good morning, everyone. Sorry, I don't know if you can see me. I'm sorry, there was a bit of delay in me putting up my hand. So I just had a question in terms of secondments, etc. Is that the only way that roles are available, that you have to go on secondment? Because that was because I'm currently on secondment, so I don't know how well my managers will take to me asking to go on another 2-year secondment when I'm back. So yeah, just wanted to check that.
So it is in terms of, it's a secondment arrangement, or we do offer some fixed term contracts, don't we? So that people have been able to come in on a fixed term basis, and that is normally for 2 years. I think, Karen, you came with us, didn't you, on a fixed term basis? I want to say, because you were so keen to join us, but I don't know if you just want to add in terms of that in relation to the decision you made around that.
Yes, in terms of kind of my personal circumstances, I'd previously been seconded to the inspectorate as an assistant inspector. I returned to my role as a kind of senior leader, and the opportunity came up for further roles, and I took the opportunity following discussion with candidate leaders in my former organisation that I would take a fixed term role, a 2-year role with the organisation, and throughout that opportunity I am now a permanent member of the team. I'm aware that obviously cannot be guaranteed, but that's the path that I took into the inspectorate as a lead inspector.
Thank you, Karen. Yasmin, I hope that answers that question.
There's a question.
Brilliant. Thanks, Yasmin. There's a question from Michelle Simi that just in terms of, there are due to be lots of changes within probation next year. Will the standards and the training change? I think that's probably a good one for you, Simi, if that's okay.
It is, yeah. Thank you, Andrea, and really good question, Michelle. We are currently in the process of reviewing our current core inspection programme, based on the fact that the sentencing bill is going through, and obviously we know that there will be changes, particularly from impact and reset, that have also already taken place. There are further changes that are being implemented. So we are currently doing that work now. We will be doing some external engagement events at various levels, and we will be having a formal consultation as well. So we would really welcome any views as we are going through that process.
Thanks, Simi. I can also see one. Oh, hang on. Let me just scroll up. So as I understand it, in terms of recruitment, it will be the HMI role that goes live in January. But we do regularly recruit for assistant inspector roles, don't we? We probably do that once or twice a year, Simi. Is that about right?
That's about right.
So I would always say watch the space in terms of assistant inspector recruitment, because that definitely happens on a regular basis. So there's normally 1 or 2 of those a year. And then Karen, in terms of the anticipated start date, that is always a brilliant question, and it takes longer than I always think it will take. So what we normally find is the process, we have the assessment centres, then there is, if people get through assessment centre, then they go through to interview, excuse me, and then they are offered the role. Often, because people are coming on secondments, there's then a little bit of toing and froing with the seconded area in terms of agreement for when that might happen, and quite often we see people have about a 3-month notice period as well. So all of that is the stuff that we have to look at. We try and bring people in at the same time as well, because if you think about the training that we talked and Donna talked about so eloquently, we try and get people in sort of clusters, don't we, in terms of training, so that they start at the same time. And it also means you normally, I think Sarah and Karen are a really good example, you start with a buddy as well at the same time. So a lot of that is dependent on kind of the logistics of your individual area, whether you're coming on secondment, whether you're coming on fixed term, however long your notice period is, in terms of that, us liaising with your home area and then working it through. But I would probably say it's probably about, I don't know, between 4 to 6 months after being offered the role that people are then appointed to the role. Simi, did you want to add anything to that? Is there anything?
No, I think that's covered fine.
Perfect. So Chanel, so youth justice inspection positions, we were hoping to have recruited in this round, but we haven't got a vacancy at the moment, so I'm not sure when we will next have a youth justice vacancy open in the youth team, but again, I would say watch this space probably within the next six months, so certainly look on our website and look out for recruitment. Simi, did you want to take in terms of job spec and advert, how will that be publicised? In fact, I think I've got that on it's in civil service jobs, is that right?
Yes, and Holly has confirmed as well that it will go out in the newsletter that everyone can sign up to, and there's a link in the chat to sign up to that, and the LinkedIn page as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I think I can see people have been answering as we go through. Any other questions?
We've got Kate with a hand up.
Kate.
Yeah, hi. You've mentioned the assessment centre a couple of times. I just wondered if you'd be able to give us a bit of a steer as to what the assessment centre actually entails. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate. Simi, did you want to take that
Yeah,
one?
of course. Yeah. So in terms of the assessment centre, there will be an activity that really looks at assessing the skills around report writing, analysing data and analysing volumes of information as well. The assessment centre is organised by an external organisation for us, so you'll get all the instructions and the evidence that you need, and then we'll be looking at asking you to write some feedback and an element of the report for an organisation. The evidence is all anonymous, it's made up, it doesn't relate to an actual inspection activity itself. As you get through the assessment centre, you'll then move on to the interview stage if you've been successful at the assessment centre stage as well. So yeah, so that's how the assessment centre will work.
It's sort of ultimately, isn't it, Simi? It's testing out all of the kind of the skills and the knowledge and the things that, in fact, that Avtar spoke to. It's that opportunity at that where we're testing out that sort of the skills and the experience and seeing, you know, can people work at pace? Can people assimilate information? Can they pull that together? Can they communicate that in a written format and those sorts of things? So yeah, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? So the only thing that I would, in terms of positions, at the moment, we're waiting to confirm that, aren't we, Simi? I think you are in the adult roles at this moment, we're just waiting to check how many positions are going to be available. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. I might confirm that we will confirm that when the advert does go live as well.
Perfect, thank you. And then just to finish, I would say, and I'll come to you, Simi, as well, just in terms of what you like about working for our organisation, there is no doubt for me this is the best role that I have ever had, and I think people echoed that on the call earlier. I absolutely love our role. It is a privilege, it's a great place to work, and we get to work with some great people. But Simi, I'll hand over to you to finish just before we come off the call. Anything you would want to add?
I just want to say a big thank you to the people that have shown an interest in attending today, and a thank you to the team for the really positive stuff that you've said as well. We hope that you take the opportunity to have a look at the advert, see if it's something that you're interested in, and if there are questions, we are here to talk to you if there's anything that you do want to check out. So yeah, hopefully, you never know, we might be working with a couple of you in the very near future. So thank you so much for this morning.
Thank you, Simi. Holly, anything logistically, or should we sign off?
No, that's all good. I'm just going to stop recording now, and I'll put it on YouTube, hopefully today, maybe tomorrow.
Perfect. That's brilliant.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.